In this video, I'm going to talk about the cost of climbing the 7 summits. You know, I touched on this in an earlier video when I was talking about the 7 or 9 summits. We're going to focus on the, I guess, kind of the Messner list of the 7 summits. So these are this is Karsten's Pyramid and then Mount Elbrus for Europe and Oceania. And so I got this email from this Explore Share place, and I'm not affiliated with them, but I'm on their mailing list. And I do find their guided trips, they're often quite inexpensive, especially if you're talking about Latin America. Although I do think these prices here are very consistent with these other parts of the world. And I do think they also will maybe hook you up with some more reasonably priced guided trips for, you know, Kilimanjaro and in Nepal that are not necessarily Everest. So I think the Everest number here is a little on the low end. So if you're expecting to have, you know, 2 Sherpas carrying oxygen for you, this is not the trip for you. This is probably more a logistics trip, which means that you need to be more self-sufficient than the typical Everest client. But anyways, I do think these numbers are consistent with what I've seen when I've been pricing out other ones. I'll run through the numbers really quickly, and then we'll do this. So subscribe to the channel. We've got a complete playlist for the 50 state high points. At the time I'm recording this, I think I've got over 30 of those high points up, but I've completed 48 at the time I'm recording it. So, you know, probably by the time you see this video, because a lot of people will see this months or years after I record it or post it, I'll have all 50 up there. We've got my Aconcagua climb. We've got the Kilimanjaro ascent and the Mexico volcanoes playlist and a lot of other interesting summits in the United States that are not on the 50 state high point. So we'll just go in the order that they do. Aconcagua, normal route. Summit in you meet up in Mendoza, and you need to sign up in August to get the early bird permit pricing. So I think it's $6,200 per person, all inclusive. So what I've seen about the Aconcagua trips, they're very reasonably priced. I did Aconcagua solo with logistics, but I did not summit. The Aconcagua trips typically have really low guide to client ratios. So if you're okay with that, then this is probably the range that you're gonna see. If you need a closer guide ratio, you might wanna arrange your own guided trip. Okay, Denali, $14,500 is what they're quoting, or Mount McKinley. I've actually priced Mount McKinley. I'm planning on climbing it next year. So I have decided that I want to try for a solo permit, and if not, I want to organize my own group. So the prices that I've seen, but maybe these are early bird, are closer to 12,000, 13,000 for guided trips, probably 2 clients for every guide, so a little higher guide ratio. I would say with Aconcagua, you know, if you have the money, you can pay for porters and make your life a lot easier. You do have the mule support with all the trips to Aconcagua. Denali, you basically have no support. You get flown out on the glacier, and then there are no porters. The guides don't really carry that much for you. So you have a huge loads, much more physically demanding trip, and also colder, of course. But both mountains are very cold. Of course, Denali is on glaciers, and ice and snow more than Aconcagua is, but Aconcagua is very cold, especially near the summit. Mount Elbrus, 18,510 feet, $2,254. That is a deal. So I would love to go to Mount Elbrus. I would put that high on my list if it seemed to be safe for Americans to travel to Russia. I'm not sure that it is, because I'm doing the 50 state high points. I'm not researching that well, but definitely if the Ukrainian war problems associated with the political tensions with that subsided, I would put, Mount Elbrus, Russia as my next 7 summit. Although I would love to go back to Aconcagua. So yeah, Elbrus, quite a good deal. I've read a bit about Elbrus. There's probably the best situation is like you stay in these diesel canisters. I think you can almost take a snowcat all the way up to Elbrus. So, you can make Elbrus harder or easier depending on the way that you structure your trip. Just keep that in mind. That's the quoted price is probably the bargain basement and more difficult way to do it. And then Mount Everest, Nepal, $4,106. I would guess with the $10,000 or $15,000 permit fee, I'm not sure if this is on the $10,000 or $15,000 permit fee. I assume this includes the permit. This is closer to a logistics where you've got base camp logistics, but you're kind of responsible for almost everything else for yourself. And you probably do not have a personal Sherpa included in that. I think you're going to have to get higher, closer to the $100,000 range, where you're going to get lots of oxygen, lots of above base camp support, and lots of Sherpa support. So keep that in mind. You need probably for the 42,000 trip price, you're going to need to be more self-sufficient than the typical client Everest climber. And please, don't try a nearly 9,000 meter mountain until you've tried at least you've summited a 7,000 meter mountain at the very least. But it might be good if you did Choyu or something, another 8,000 meter or 7,000 meter plus mountain before that. Personally, given the time and the money, I would probably do like Island Peak before I attempted any of the 8,000 meters in Nepal, just to get the lay of the land in Nepal. And also get another 6,000 meter mountain under my belt. And then Karsten's Pyramid, Indonesia, 18,984 is the price. And that is very expensive because there's that helicopter flight. It's near the gold mine there. The kind of political tensions, very hard to, if you walk there, then there's a lot of risk of death or being kidnapped or ransomed. So all those things are issues. So you're probably going to be choppered in. The cost of the chopper is going to make it one of the more expensive climbs, even though it's not super high. That's in Oceania. That's in Papua, Indonesia, not to be confused with Papua New Guinea. But those are like right next to one another. And then Mount Vincent, Antarctica is actually the most expensive. So there is a monopoly on the airline flights to Mount Vincent. It's through this kind of like these Russian airplanes. So the biggest expense is that airplane ticket and to the bottom of the world. but 57,895. So the most expensive trip is Vinson. You know, probably not the most difficult. Given its higher expense, it probably makes sense to do Vincent after you've completed Denali, just so you've got the cold weather climbing down and snow climbing and glacier and managing yourself in the cold before you spend the big bucks. And then, so, you know, I think in terms of the, I don't think they didn't list, they did not list, Kilimanjaro. I would say Kilimanjaro, you probably could go as low as $2,000 or less. Yeah, oh no, Kilimanjaro, it does say $2,095. So on the Lemosio route. That's pretty good. That's not too bad for Lemosio route. That's one of the longer routes. Better acclimatization. It's not the Coca-Cola route. So you might be able to even go lower than that, but I did the Northern Circuit route, which was more expensive and longer. The Lemosio route for better acclimatization. And I was very happy with that. Check out our series on that. So that's it. Those are the prices. So least expensive, Kilimanjaro, Elbrus. After that, then we're talking about Aconcagua, third least expensive, fourth least expensive, Denali. And then Karsten's third most expensive, second most expensive is Everest, and first most expensive is Mount Vinson. That being said, I think the range of prices you're going to see on Everest is going to be bigger than probably Vinson, and so you could end up paying more for Everest than Vinson, depending on the level of support that you want and can afford. All right, subscribe to the Slow Boat Sailing. We give you our mountaineering adventures, our 50-state high point adventures, our round-the-world sailing adventures, and the stories of the most interesting sailors in the world. Like and comment and subscribe.